That fresh summer's wrist smell. Welcome back everyone to the Coach Approach. This is your coach Blake of the Black Baker, and today we're gonna be talking about the best top 10 roles. There's no top numbers. How y'all doing? I'm a firm believer that you can play anything you want and you'll climb as long as you just improve as a player. But I know a lot of you guys don't think like that, and a lot of you guys don't want to play like that. A lot of you guys rather just get a rank faster and learn there than learn where you are now and then get there later. You know what I mean? I'm here with you. I got you. So we're gonna be going over the best champions and the best roles to carry with, and I hope this helps you guys climb a little bit faster than what you guys would usually do, kind of just doing your own thing. Before we get started, I just want to say, if you guys are curious where I was, what I've been doing, and things like that, I have an update video right there. It's somewhere. Also, the link is in the description below. So if you guys are interested in where I've been, why I've been making videos, by all means, go look at it. If you guys don't care, continue to watch and look out for the next one. But without further ado, let's get into it. So before we can get into what is the best role or what is the best champ to carry with, you want to think about what does carrying actually mean. A lot of people think carrying means kills. A lot of people think carrying means, just with macro, with the right calls. A lot of people think carrying means pick a specific champ and you'll probably carry with it. There's a lot of things coming to it, but I think the main thing that people usually associate carry with is basically just being the star player. Being the MVP of a team is usually how you carry. And the best way to be the MVP, or at least the most noticeable, is to get kills. Therefore, the main focus around League normally is what? You got it, class, kills. That's not the right way to play, but that's what people think. So, back to the point at hand, carrying can mean kills. Carrying can mean with macro. Carrying can mean perma-ganking someone. Carrying can be perma-roaming. Carrying can be getting the most CS in the game. At the end of the day, carrying basically means I am playing better than all 9 players in my game. You heard it here, folks. I am playing better than all 9 players in my game. That's what carrying means. And if you're not doing that, you're not carrying. Doesn't mean you're doing better than your team. Better than everybody in the game. That's what your goals should be. So now that we got that out the way, what are the best champs to carry with? Honestly, the best champions to really carry with, and I might get a lot of flack for this, but who cares? I always say what I think I know, and I know what I think. I don't really know what sense that made, but anyway, late game champions. What? Champions that actually scale into the game, whether it be with tankiness, whether it be with damage, whether it be with, that's kind of it, right? Either you do damage or you don't do damage, but regardless, champions like that, champions with kits that scale into late game. So an example of someone's kit who doesn't really scale into late game is Hecarim. Hecarim's kit doesn't really scale into late game. His damage might be okay, but his kit is not that great. The best thing he can do is ult in, and then that's kind of it. After his ult's gone, his kit doesn't really do anything for the team. And that's the thing that you want to think about when you're selecting your champion to carry with that is not really a damage dealer. Does his kit or her kit scale into the late game when it comes to team fights? Or is it just better if it's picking off people? At the end of the day, if it's better than picking off people, might not be the best choice if you're a tank, right? Or if you're a bruiser. You might want to get something more team-oriented because most of the time late game, you're going to have to deal with your team, right? Now you might be thinking, well, the games don't usually last that long. Everybody says play, early game champions so you can get the game rolling and you can be strong already and then you can just win the game and close out. Newsflash, only ranks that tend to close out in 20-ish minutes are Masters Plus. Okay, so unless you're Master Plus, late game champions are usually the ones for you. And I'm not talking about extremely late game champions, right? I'm not talking about something that just doesn't take off until 40 minutes into the game, like Kog'Maw. Okay, 40 is a little bit, okay, maybe not 40, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not talking about a champ that takes that long to get in, but I'm talking about a champ that literally can start doing damage and doesn't really fall off after. So we're talking about things like Camille. We're talking about things like Aatrox. We're talking about things like Master Yi, things like, I'm trying to think, Xerath, Azir. There's a lot of champions kind of like that. Like I said, Maokai, Malphite, Rell, Leona, Thresh, Soraka. These champs that the kit are just amazing mid to late game, and it doesn't matter if they don't do damage or if they do damage, the kit is great, and that's what you want to think about. So does my champion's kit actually go into that mid to late game, and is it useful for the team? So just a side note, as I said, if you guys are interested in why I was gone for so long and what I was doing and stuff like that, the video should be somewhere. If you're not interested in watching, that whole thing, I say whole like it's going to be long, it's probably going to be short, but pretty much I started coaching Valorant. So if you guys are interested in Valorant coaching, CoachBlaker.com. If you guys are interested in league coaching, CoachBlaker.com. If you guys are unsure about your coaching, And if coaching is even worth it, I got a video for you. Is coaching worth it? Without further ado, now the question is, what's the best role to carry with? Considering that we know this information about late game champions, mid to late game champions, what's the best role to really carry with? Freeze! Before we continue, I just want to say I've coached every single role. I've climbed with every single role. This is not about bias. There's no bias towards any role. I just want to kind of get that out the way. I know some of you guys might think, oh, well, you main this and that's why you say that. Or you main that, that's why you say that. I don't main anything. I haven't mained anything for about 2 years. I've just been playing the game and trying to gain more knowledge to then better coach the students. So remember, none of this is with bias. This is based off the stats from me coaching, from me playing, from me just seeing players climb on Smurfs and things like that. These are pretty much where the stats lie. As I said, the gameplay is different between Master Plus and below Master. So getting to high elo is a different part of the game than actually being high elo. Remember that. When you think about it, what I just said about being mid to late game oriented, every single role kind of has that, right? Every single role has a champ that can go to mid to late game. Depending on the role, you kind of have a little bit less options than the other roles. For example, jungle doesn't really have many champs that will scale into late game. For an obvious reason, right? Jungle would be a little bit ridiculous if a champ was strong early and late game. And when we say late game, we're talking about actual late game, about 5 to 6 items, right? That's late game. And I mean, you could say 4, but like 5 to 6 items is usually late game. 4 depending on the state of the game, but more or less when it's getting to that late game point, everybody has about 5 items. So when we think about all these champions for the jungle, we can say like, well, Hecarim, once again, he's not that great later. Lee Sin, not that great later, unless you're very, very smart. Udyr, not that great later. Like, there's a lot. Warwick, not that great later. You guys know, there's just a lot of champs that are like meta right now, and the champs just aren't that great later. For mid, it's the same way. Mid has a little bit more of a selection of mid to late game, but it's kind of the same way. Top has more of a selection, but it's kind of the same way. Support kind of has a really good selection, honestly. Their champs are ridiculous. And then ADC, obviously, most ADCs go to late game. So when we think about this, which role is probably the best to carry with? You got it. It's the bot lane, right? ADCs, supports. Those are the 2 best roles to carry with. You could probably climb really quickly playing those 2 roles. Now you might be thinking, well, why would I play ADC or support if I can play jungle and then I can just like kill everybody and then we can get the game going? Once again, we establish if a game goes too late and the jungler you chose is not a mid to late game jungler, you are gonna have problems because you'll get to the point where you can't play without your team. And if your team doesn't play how you want them to play, even if they're fed, you'll end up losing the game. So, as I said before, it's best to have that champion. Now, if you play jungle and you're playing a champ that does do well later, then that's fine, obviously, because you have the power of both. But there's not many choices, and you're very, very limited on what you can play in terms of a jungle. As far as mid lane goes, same thing. You know, I can just roam. I can play Zed. I can play Talon. That's true, you can. But once again, it's going to get to the point where you can't really team fight too well. And then what? Top lane's the same way. Well, I can play Riven. You can, but it's going to get to that point where you're going to need your team to play properly. Otherwise, you're going to lose. And that's where the point of ADC and support come in. Those champions are designed to play around those situations, right? If you look at any ADCs, their kit is just basically designed to team fight, right? If you think about it, just really think about it. When we think about support, it's the same way, right? Their kits are usually designed to for team play. It's designed for the ADC. That's what the support is, right? They help the entire team. Why would you have a support character that's not good at team fighting? There's no such thing as that, unless you play some off stuff, right? And in which case, that's your fault. So now that we got that out the way, the best champions to pretty much carry with, the best roles to pretty much carry with, we wanted to talk about how to actually carry, right? You're like, well, you know, coach, you gave me the information. Well, how do I carry though? That's not really telling me anything. How do I actually carry the game? Remember what I said. In order to really carry the game, what is it? You need to know what it means. It means to be the best player out of all 9 players, right? The best player out of all 9 players. That means you have to play your champ to the maximum potential. You have to play your role to the maximum potential. You have to make sure that you're calling the right plays to the maximum. Like, you have to literally be the best. If there's someone smurfing in your game, you're gonna know that he's smurfing, right? You're gonna be able to tell. You're gonna be able to be like, that guy's smurfing, because blah 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 blah. Whatever you see and whatever makes you think that they're smurfing. Be that guy. That's the only way to do it. And as I said, you have a higher chance of winning if you play mid to late game, because that's where majority of the game takes place. That's where the majority of the game gets thrown. Nobody throws an early game. It's very hard to, right? Because there's nothing really happening. There's no throws. But when someone throws, when a game gets turned around, where is it? Usually mid to late game. That's why it's important to play a champ, play a role that is mid to late game if you really want to have a higher chance of climbing. At the end of the day, though, as I said, you do have to get better, right? I mean, that's nothing. But the champs, especially damage champs, where it's mid to late game oriented, you don't really have to think too much because you're always going to do damage, right? You're not going to just, oh, I died, I don't do damage. No, as long as you don't die, you should always be able to do damage, which means you don't have to really think as much, right? When you're playing Camille and you're scaling into the game, you don't have to think as much. You fly onto someone, you auto attack, you Q, there you go. They're probably almost dead by then, right? When you're playing ADC, oh, my team like ints, whatever, I'm sitting back and I'm just shooting everything, right? Support, same way, you know? Whatever's happening, oh, I jump in and I engage and I walk backwards and peel. Or if you're playing like a Lulu, Soraka, whatever, oh, everybody else do the work, I just heal shield, right? And of course, I'm dumbing everything down more than it needs to be, but you get my point. It's a lot easier to hone in on the skills like that than it is to hone in on skills that is to pave a way to win the game, right? If it's already set in motion where it's all I have to do is X, Y, Z, I don't know why I counted with the X, Y, Z, it's a lot easier to win a game versus you having to basically go from A, B, C, D all the way to X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? And that's the difference. That's how you can carry your games. That's how you actually climb, is if you actually play these mid to late game champions. And that's why I prefer ADC when I climb, because of that specific situation, you know. And I like support as well because I can impact the mid to late game, and that's usually where the game is decided. People think it's decided early. It's not. It's only decided early in high elo. If you're anything below master, it doesn't matter. It's freaking mid to late game that decides the game. It is not early game. So as long as you play your early game right to your ability, better than your counterpart, and you know, if it's better than the entire team and their team, that's good. But if it's better than your counterpart, you'll have a chance to then win mid to late game. So I hope this helped you. Hope this helps you understand, you know, how to carry what champs and what roles. I mean, at the end of the day, as I said, it really comes down to how good you are. It doesn't matter what you play, but if you want the extra edge, mid to late game champs, mid to late game roles is where it's decided.